Brought to you by Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. With zero sugar, and now even more delicious, is the new Coca-Cola Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? Find out for yourself. And by Wells Fargo, official retail bank sponsor of Carolina Athletics. Prime time in the ACC. Your source for everything that's happening in the ACC. Here's your host, Dave Nathan.
It's 3 hours worth of sports information, conversation, and maybe even a little entertainment, all rolled into one 60-minute window. We like to call it prime time in the ACC. We are back from our 6-day and 23-hour hiatus. Dave Nathan again with you from wire to wire tonight, talking to some of the big voices around the Atlantic Coast Conference. We'll check in with Phil Ford coming up in about 10 minutes' time. We'll discuss, obviously, the Duke-Carolina matchup coming up on Saturday. That's the ACC's final game of the regular season. There are a handful of games taking place tonight, and one of the games that we're about to explore is NC State's matchup with Wake Forest as the Demon Deacons try to finish up strong coming down the home stretch here this evening. And we'll see what North Carolina State has in store for the Demon Deacons. We'll also check in with Jim Szoke towards the back end of the broadcast. What makes an ACC Coach of the Year candidate more than a candidate and maybe an ACC Coach of the Year? Also, same conversation for who should be the ACC Player of the Year, and we'll discuss the NFL Combine. The ACC standings heading into tonight's games feature Duke at the top of the pile. The Blue Devils are the regular season champs, currently at 16-3. Notre Dame sitting in the 2 spot at 14-4, followed by 14-5 Carolina and 12-6 Miami. If the ACC tournament were to start today, those 4 teams wouldn't begin until Thursday with double byes. Wake Forest currently sitting at 12-7, just on the outside looking in as play begins tonight. Virginia Tech and Virginia both 11-8, the only other 2 teams above 500. And then it's 9-10 Syracuse, 8-10 Florida State, 6-12 Clemson and Boston College. 2 6-13 teams are Louisville and Pittsburgh, and the 2 4-14 teams at the bottom of the pile, North Carolina State and Georgia Tech. We mentioned North Carolina State on the road at Wake getting underway, and it was interesting to hear from Coach Keats during the ACC Basketball Coaches Teleconference this week about why State's been playing a better brand of basketball for whatever reason on the road as opposed to in Raleigh.
If you look back, if you even go back to last year when we won those 5 road games in a row, seems like that we had some success on the road. I don't have an answer to that, and I'm not even going to begin to say that we play better on the road, but I will say we have more wins on the road than we would typically have at home. But that being said, we have a great home court advantage to play in. We play that one game in Reynolds, and then we play in the PNC, and great atmosphere against Carolina. We just have had a little bit more success the last couple of years playing on the road, and I don't know that there's an exact reason for that.
That's NC State basketball coach Kevin Keats on why State's been a better team on the road this year, and even going back to last year than playing at home. Wake Forest, again, at home later tonight, hosting NC State, has been buoyed by the play of Alondas Williams, and Coach Forbes happy to discuss all the different things that his star player has done for this year's Demon Deacon bunch.
Yeah, man, he's a stat stuffer. He's not a one-dimensional player. He doesn't demand to have a ton of shots. He doesn't care if he leads us in scoring. He just wants to win, and his biggest attribute is he unbelievably shares the ball, and I think he gets more enjoyment out of passing the ball than he does scoring the ball. Probably the most impressive thing for me with him is he went from being like the 6th or 7th option on the scouting report at Oklahoma to the top of the scouting report at Wake Forest. That is a hard thing because not only is he a good player, he's getting everybody's attention. And I think he's handled that really, really well. And there's been some growth with that, but over time, I think he's handled that very, very well.
So that's Wake Forest basketball coach Steve Forbes on Alondas Williams. And again, Wake Forest and North Carolina State, probably the premier game around our area tonight, tipping off at 9 o'clock from Joel Coliseum. The other 9 o'clock game tonight has Miami at Boston College, and the 2 7 o'clock games just getting started. Clemson hosting Georgia Tech, and FSU welcoming Notre Dame to Tallahassee. That's what's on tap tonight. Saturday, final day of the regular season. Virginia is at Louisville. Boston College goes to Georgia Tech. Those 2 games tip off at noon. The 1 o'clock matchup has Syracuse hosting Miami. Then Virginia Tech is at Clemson. That's a 2 o'clock start. NC State goes to FSU, also a 2 p.m. tip. At 2:30, Pittsburgh is at Notre Dame. And at 6, the one that we'll discuss with Phil Ford after the break, Carolina at Duke, the final home game for Mike Krzyzewski at Cameron Indoor Stadium. It's been talked about for a long time. Remember, and Hubert Davis said this after the game on Monday when Carolina beat Syracuse in overtime, they're actually going to play a game. And that's what Hubert Davis's main concern is when Carolina gets over to Durham. That's playing the game. But there is a lot of other focus on what's happening away from the game, and rightly so. It's an historic moment, but, again, there is still a game to be played. We'll talk about that with Phil a little bit later on. Jim Szoke discusses ACC bubble teams, ACC Coach of the Year, and ACC Player of the Year, and the NFL Combine. When we come back, prime time in the ACC continues from Learfield.
Together, let's celebrate the big occasions and the little moments, the firsts and forevers. Let's celebrate others and celebrate ourselves, because every milestone matters. And we promise to be with you for every one of them. Shop Reed's Jewelers and Reeds.com to find the perfect gift to celebrate your life's moments. Reed's Jewelers, trusted with life's moments.
And we're back with breaking news. Coke Zero Sugar might be the best Coke ever.
That's right, Jim. Coke Zero Sugar is a must-try for any Coke fan, so make sure you... Jim. Jim. We're on the air.
Ooh, yes, this tastes like the best Coke ever to me. Your thoughts, Jen?
Well, can I have a sip?
Jen, we're in the middle of reporting the news.
I need to try it first.
Hunt Brothers Pizza, the official pizza of Carolina Athletics, joins Tar Heels fans across the nation cheering Go Heels. Whether you're at home watching the game or out on the road, download our Hunt Brothers Pizza app to find a location near you. The Hunt family has been proudly serving our delicious original crust pizza to North Carolina families for over 20 years. With all toppings, no extra charge, and 10 to choose from, there's sure to be a topping combination for everyone to enjoy a Hunt Brothers Pizza.
If you want the nation's best auto insurer, look no further than North Carolina Farm Bureau Insurance. Rated #1 in Crash Network's Insurer Report Card, we're the only insurer in the nation to receive an A+ rating from auto body shops in 2020 and 2021. Our philosophy is simple. Be fair, be quick, be the best. North Carolina Farm Bureau Insurance. Helping you is what we do best.
The perfect tailgate. All you need are your friends and the 2021 Ford F-150 with the available Pro Power onboard. It's like a mobile generator to power your tailgate all game long. It's this tradition of toughness and innovation that's made Ford F-Series America's best-selling truck 44 years straight and counting. Make your game day traditions bigger and better season after season. Check out the 2021 Ford F-150 at your Carolina Ford dealer. Based on 1977 through 2020 calendar year total sales.
It's a new season. Get ready for more men's and women's college sports excellence. Trophies will be awarded in June to schools who take the top spot in the 2021-22 Learfield Directors Cup. The premier award recognizes one winning institution in all competitive divisions. Follow your favorite team's progress as seasonal standings are announced at L Directors Cup on Twitter and online at directorscup.org. The crowning achievement in college athletics.
It's bow time. Tick, tick, boom. Like a powder keg in your mouth. Southbound, scratch made. Not in a microwave oven, but an oven. Biscuits baked 49 steps fluffy. Chicken marinated 12 hours bold. Iced tea steeped 12 minutes lazy as a porch swing. Now you're talking sweet, easy Southern style. Because when it comes to down-home cooking, it's not our first rodeo. Feed the whole family with a big Bow Box Supremes meal. It's bow time.
The Rams Club and the Iron Dukes are facing off again to see which fan base can raise the most support for their student athletes in the Our Blue is Best Challenge. The Rams Club is offering daily giveaways for anyone who joins before March 5th. Rams Club memberships start at just $100 annually or $25 for UNC students. Current members can give to the Our Blue is Best Challenge or encourage friends and family to join. For more info on how to participate, visit ramsclub.com/ourblueisbest. Let's prove Carolina Blue is the best blue. Go Heels!
Ready to get back in the game? Great news! The movement experts at Breakthrough Physical Therapy can help you find relief and results and keep you off the sidelines. With over 20 convenient locations across North and South Carolina, contact Breakthrough Physical Therapy today at www.breakthrough-pt.com to see a physical therapist. Breakthrough Physical Therapy, a proud partner of Carolina Athletics and trusted choice for keeping Tar Heel fans in the game.
Primetime in the ACC is off and running here on a Wednesday night. Dave Nathan welcoming you back to our show, and really excited to talk with Phil Ford about a little Carolina basketball, some Duke basketball, and maybe even some Mike Krzyzewski. Phil, this regular season has been a wild one in that Duke's going to finish at the top of the pile for the first time in better than a decade, and for all the issues that a lot of folks thought Carolina had back in November and December, Carolina's win on Monday over Syracuse has them comfortably sitting inside the top four with a guaranteed double bye in the ACC tournament.
Oh, it's been a very unpredictable year. I think the teams are so close in their talent and ability and their experience, and you had some great play, but you had a lot of inconsistent play too. But I'm just really proud of the Heels, of course. They had their ups and their downs, but they seem to, have it in the middle of the road right now. And I think the tournament is going to be exciting. I'm sure Duke is the favorite, but as you said, this year has shown that anybody can beat anybody, and it's going to be a very exciting ACC tournament.
Before we get to Brooklyn for the ACC tournament, there's still some business to be done later on tonight, and obviously into Saturday when Duke and Carolina meet up in the ACC regular season finale. And before the game gets started, and it feels like it's been this way for the last 7 or 8 months, everybody's focusing on one of the coaches who'll be coaching in his final regular season game. But, man for man, team versus team here, do you expect this to be a much different game? I guess we always expect the unexpected when these two get together. But how do you see this one differing from the first matchup?
You would never get me ever again to predict the Duke-Carolina game. I mean, on paper, it should be a blowout. But, when, Duke and Carolina get together, you just never know what's going to happen. And as far as Coach K and, what a tremendous honor it's been for us to witness, him at Duke. Him at Duke and Coach K and Coach Smith at Carolina and Roy at Carolina and, Coach Boeheim at Syracuse. We've had some great, great coaches in this league. And, everything that he's getting, I think he deserves. And I really appreciate the friendship that he and Mickey have given me throughout all these years. And I wish him the best, but for about a couple of hours on Saturday, I don't wish him the best, but I'm sure he would understand that. He's a great guy.
That's Phil Ford joining us here on Primetime in the ACC. Phil, I don't want to ruin this for you because I don't think you've seen it yet, but in the most recent installment of the ACC tournament documentary on the ACC network, the story was told of Coach Smith pulling all the assistants together in a room to let you know that he was retiring. And Coach Smith correctly predicted that you would shed a few tears in that meeting.
You're right. I haven't said it, but I know when he said that, of course, I broke down. And I remember him looking at me saying, I knew you were going to cry.
So we've now confirmed that through a couple of different sources. Phil Ford on TV and now Phil Ford on the radio. When Coach Krzyzewski announced that this was going to be his final year back in the offseason, do you remember where you were at the time or maybe some of the ideas that were running through your head about where in the world the program goes after him?
I just remember, thinking, what a great job and what a great career that he's had. And, his family, being a coach's family, is not the easiest thing in the world. You know, I know every time I see Leslie, Huber's wife, I ask her how she doing. You know, how you doing? You know, I don't really care about X's and O's. I just want to know how you are. And you know, for his family, 40 some years to have done that and been there for him, and the success that he's had. Oh my gosh! And the players that he's coached and developed, not only on the court but off the court. You know, it's just well deserved. If anybody deserves to enjoy the rest of their life, it's definitely him.
I'm glad you bring up the support system that coaches have in place because, Phil, after our next time out here, there's a story out on ESPN.com today about Mike Krzyzewski and about where it kind of started for him in Chicago and how there have been some people, not basketball people, in his life from the get-go that he's still very close with that tell stories and explain things that we've never heard about. As a guy that's been on the bench before and as somebody that's coached at the highest level, can you explain just how important some of those quote-unquote non-basketball support systems can be when, you know, coaching and playing and winning, you know, day-to-day just seems to be all that other people really care about?
Well, you know, it's kind of like if at your job, if you were doing a report and your report was being covered by CBS News, and, you know, every time you made a mistake in your report, you had somebody saying it was a mistake, and sometimes it's not a mistake, but they're still saying it's a mistake. So, you know, you have to have that support system. I know Walter and I used to talk all the time. You know, we worry about Coach Smith because, you know, all of us would always go to Coach Smith for advice and go to Coach Smith, you know, with problems. And we used to always say, well, I wonder who Coach Smith goes to, you know, because everybody needs someone. And, you know, the support system that, you know, these coaches have, you know, is extremely important for their success.
That's Phil Ford, one of the best. Phil, listen, always great to hear from you. Insights always fantastic. Good luck catching up on the ACC tournament documentary. And when we speak again, we will be speaking of the ACC tournament.
Great. Look forward to it. Thank you, Dave.
That's Phil Ford. Again, we'll explore this story on ESPN.com coming up next. Wright Thompson's written the piece on Mike Krzyzewski, so stay tuned for that. Primetime in the ACC continues from Learfield.
At Smith Drugs of Forest City, we are continue to offer the COVID-19 rapid testing and the COVID-19 vaccinations. Please call our pharmacy at 828-245-4591 with any questions or concerns that you may have. You may also visit our website at smithsdrugsfc.com and schedule your COVID rapid 19 test or your vaccination. Again, if you have any questions, please call our pharmacy at 828-245-4591.
It's that time again, time to get the flu vaccines. And Smith's Drugs in Forest City has the flu vaccinations available. Walk-ins Monday through Friday and Saturdays by appointment. And Smith's Drug is asking all their Dream Station and System 1 CPAP customers to call if you need any help with registering your recalled devices. Just call the Home Medical Department for any help or with questions at 828-245-4591. And Smith's Drugs has the Moderna and Pfizer initial shots and the boosters. They also have the flu vaccines at Smith's Drugs of Forest City. For all your pharmacy needs, choose the Medicine Box of Forest City. Pharmacist Sheila Sheehan provides excellent care and pharmacy assistance for Medicare prescription cards. The Medicine Box is your home medical equipment provider offering wheelchairs, walkers, nebulizers, and diabetic supplies. They also will direct bill Medicare for all your home medical needs. Call 245-1696. The Medicine Box on Broadway in Forest City, your local hometown pharmacy. Curbside service is available. There are so many insurance agencies here and there, but to find a dependable agency that you can trust, that would be Maxwell B. Hamrick Insurance Agency. They are your full-service agency offering auto, business, homeowners, health, and life. Maxwell B. Hamrick is an independent insurance agent. Call them today at 286-2384. They care about their customers, and it shows. They're located at 119 Huntley Street in Spindale. Maxwell B. Hamrick Insurance Agency, serving one satisfied customer at a time.
It's bow time. Tick, tick, boom. Like a powder keg in your mouth. Southbound, scratch made. Not in a microwave oven, but an oven. Biscuits baked 49 steps fluffy. Chicken marinated 12 hours bold. Iced tea steeped 12 minutes lazy as a porch swing. Now you're talking sweet, easy Southern style. Because when it comes to down-home cooking, it's not our first rodeo. Feed the whole family with a Big Bow Box Supremes meal. It's bow time.
The Rams Club and the Iron Dukes are facing off again to see which fan base can raise the most support for their student athletes in the Our Blue is Best Challenge. The Rams Club is offering daily giveaways for anyone who joins before March 5th. Rams Club memberships start at just $100 annually or $25 for UNC students. Current members can give to the Our Blue is Best Challenge or encourage friends and family to join. For more info on how to participate, visit ramsclub.com/ourblueisbest. Let's prove Carolina Blue is the best blue. Go Heels!
It's a new season. Get ready for more men's and women's college sports excellence. Trophies will be awarded in June to schools who take the top spot in the 2021-22 Learfield Directors Cup. The premier award recognizes one winning institution in all competitive divisions. Follow your favorite team's progress as seasonal standings are announced at L Directors Cup on Twitter and online at directorscup.org. The crowning achievement in college athletics.
Ready to get back in the game? Great news! The movement experts at Breakthrough Physical Therapy can help you find relief and results and keep you off the sidelines. With over 20 convenient locations across North and South Carolina, contact Breakthrough Physical Therapy today at www.breakthrough-pt.com to see a physical therapist. Breakthrough Physical Therapy, a proud partner of Carolina Athletics and trusted choice for keeping Tar Heel fans in the game.
Dave Nathan back for more prime time in the ACC here on a Wednesday night. We're going to have Jim Zoki stop by the broadcast to discuss the ACC basketball regular season, which is coming to a conclusion here in just a few nights. We've got tonight's action followed by Saturday, and then off to Brooklyn for the ACC tournament, plus postseason awards. Jim and I will discuss who's in the running for Coach of the Year and Player of the Year, plus the NFL Combine and what's been going on here recently with that. But before we get into that conversation, and on the heels of all the other ACC basketball talk we've had here today, I did want to point out something that caught my eye a little bit earlier today. And whenever this author writes something, you have to read it, okay? For my money, and I'm not as well read as some of you out there, but for whatever I think, I want to impart this on you. There's not a better sports writer out there right now than Wright Thompson, okay? Maybe it's not an accident that the man's name is Wright, okay, even though he spells it W-R-I-G-H-T. Wright Thompson is as solid an author that will explore things and tell you things that you had no idea about, no matter how well known the subject is, and Wright's at the very top of the pile when it comes to writing about people. So I'm guessing he gets to pick and choose the assignments, and the ones that I can remember off the top of my head, and I've got a tough time remembering what I had for breakfast today. Wright Thompson wrote a story on Michael Jordan when he turned 50, and Michael Jordan turned 50 more than just a few years ago. That's a story that I remember, and that was a story filled with anecdotes and pieces of information. No matter how well you think you know Michael Jordan, especially from being around these parts where a lot of you may know Michael Jordan back in the 70s and 80s. All right, Wright Thompson uncovered and explored things in that story about Michael Jordan turning 50 that I don't think anybody had ever heard about before. And then a few years after that, Wright Thompson penned a piece on Tiger Woods. All right, I don't even think Tiger participated in the story, but Wright was able to get in good with enough other people that knew Tiger well to tell you things that you never knew about Tiger Woods. And we're talking about folks that have been explored since almost before they were able to walk, okay? What hasn't been discussed or reviewed about Tiger Woods' life? Well, Wright Thompson finds these things. And then he writes these things, and he does it in a way that you just can't stop reading. I'm a guy that has a tough time just sitting down and doing anything for more than about 5 minutes. But Wright Thompson has written a story here titled The Final March of Coach K on ESPN.com today. And as I said, I couldn't stop reading it. And for as long as Mike Krzyzewski has been a part of the ACC culture, going back to 1980, Wright Thompson has uncovered things and explored things and written about things that I had no idea about. And I'm guessing if you go and read this story on ESPN.com, you too will be blown away by the amount of insight and information about Mike Krzyzewski, who very much participated in this story, okay? I would love to see what kind of access Wright had to be able to do these things, because we're just blessed enough to read about it. I'd love to see how much time Wright Thompson was able to spend with Mike Krzyzewski and some of Mike's old running mates from the old Chicago days to get some of these stories written and out on ESPN.com today. So the story, as most of them are, far too long to read. Okay, I don't know if I could fit the entire story word for word into primetime in the ACC, which spans about an hour's worth of time. But if you've got some time here today, check this story out on Mike Krzyzewski. It is condensed into a lifetime's worth of stories and anecdotes from the folks that have known Mike Krzyzewski, maybe the best and longest of anybody. And these aren't just basketball people, okay? The old term foxhole buddies comes up. These are some of Mike Krzyzewski's foxhole buddies from back in the old Chicago days, before Mike Krzyzewski ever became Coach K. All right, we can go back and hear all sorts of stories about folks that have known Mike Krzyzewski as Coach K for the last 30 or 40 years. But how did he become Coach K? What were the roots of him becoming the man and the coach that he is? And you'll find them in this story from the folks that grew up with him in Chicago and still know him well. All right, these are not the folks who have recognizable names that you and I might know about in basketball or sports circles, but these are the people that formed the building blocks of what Mike Krzyzewski became later on in life. And these are the stories that Wright Thompson has such a special knack for crafting. So, again, it would be implausible for me to go back and read the story here on Primetime in the ACC, although we could argue maybe this show would sound better if I was to read Wright Thompson as opposed to just speaking here ad lib and discussing things off the top of my head. But as a public service here, check it out on ESPN.com. Fantastic story. Written by Wright Thompson, and again, for whatever my words are worth, Wright Thompson doesn't do anything that's not fantastic, all right? So there's that. Jim Szoke, also, we'll put him in the borderline fantastic category for his work with the Carolina Panthers, and also here on this broadcast, Primetime in the ACC. We'll discuss the ACC bubble teams. We'll discuss who should be ACC Player of the Year, and also this might be the best discussion Jim and I will have here today. And that's setting a real high bar. What sorts of attributes should define who wins Coach of the Year? Because if you know me, you know that I don't participate in any of these preseason voting polls or rankings, because when it comes to not knowing what you don't know, listen, we don't know anything in November. We might know a lot in March. We might think we know a lot in March. But you go back 3 or 4 months and you'll find out just how little you knew about the upcoming season, okay? Wake Forest is a fantastic example of that. Georgia Tech, who won the ACC tournament last year, is assured of playing on a Tuesday this year. There is so little that you know in college basketball right now from one year to the next. It makes it almost borderline impossible to figure things out and vote with a clear head. That being said, what should be considered when you vote for Coach of the Year? You've got teams that aren't expected to do well, that do well. You've got teams with a bunch of expectations that still have to find a way to filter out the noise and continue to play at a high level. And then you've got some teams that have to overcome roadblocks and obstacles in the middle of the season that you couldn't predict it back in November, that you have to deal with in real time. These, to me, are just some of the criteria that you've got to sift through to find out who in the world is Coach of the Year. And the aforementioned Mike Krzyzewski, who we just talked about, I think he's on the short list of folks that are in the contention for winning Coach of the Year, along with a few other folks here coaching in the great state of North Carolina. So we'll talk about that with Jim Szoke upon our return. Primetime in the ACC continues from Learfield.
Together, let's celebrate the big occasions and the little moments, the firsts and forevers. Let's celebrate others and celebrate ourselves, because every milestone matters, and we promise to be with you for every one of them. Shop Reed's Jewelers and Reeds.com to find the perfect gift to celebrate your life's moments. Reed's Jewelers, trusted with life's moments.
And we're back with breaking news. Coke Zero Sugar might be the best Coke ever.
That's right, Jim. Coke Zero Sugar is a must-try for any Coke fan, so make sure you... Jim. Jim. We're on the air.
Ooh, yes, this tastes like the best Coke ever to me. Your thoughts, Jen?
Well, can I have a sip?
Jen, we're in the middle of reporting the news.
I need to try it first.
If you want the nation's best auto insurer, look no further than North Carolina Farm Bureau Insurance. Rated #1 in Crash Network's Insurer Report Card. We're the only insurer in the nation to receive an A+ rating from auto body shops in 2020 and 2021. Our philosophy is simple. Be fair, be quick, be the best. North Carolina Farm Bureau Insurance. Helping you is what we do best.
Hunt Brothers Pizza, the official pizza of Carolina Athletics, joins Tar Heels fans across the nation cheering Go Heels. Whether you're at home watching the game or out on the road, download our Hunt Brothers Pizza app to find a location near you. The Hunt family has been proudly serving our delicious original crust pizza to North Carolina families for over 20 years. With all toppings, no extra charge, and 10 to choose from, there's sure to be a topping combination for everyone to enjoy a Hunt Brothers Pizza.
College sports fans now have access to hundreds of weekly podcasts that zero in on the college sports world. Now available in the Varsity Podcast Network and part of the new Varsity app. The app is free and available from wherever you get your favorite apps. Download the Varsity app today to have access to hundreds of national podcasts as well as your favorite team-focused podcasts. The Varsity Podcast Network, now available for free on the Varsity app. Download from the App Store and listen today.
It's bow time. Tick, tick, boom. Like a powder keg in your mouth. Southbound, scratch made. Not in a microwave oven, but an oven. Biscuits baked 49 steps fluffy. Chicken marinated 12 hours bold. Iced tea steeped 12 minutes lazy as a porch swing. Now you're talking sweet, easy Southern style. Because when it comes to down-home cooking, it's not our first rodeo. Feed the whole family with a big Bow Box Supremes meal. It's bow time.
The Rams Club and the Iron Dukes are facing off again to see which fan base can raise the most support for their student athletes in the Our Blue is Best Challenge. The Rams Club is offering daily giveaways for anyone who joins before March 5th. Rams Club memberships start at just $100 annually or $25 for UNC students. Current members can give to the Our Blue is Best Challenge or encourage friends and family to join. For more info on how to participate, visit ramsclub.com/ourblueisbest. Let's prove Carolina Blue is the best blue. Go Heels!
It's a new season. Get ready for more men's and women's college sports excellence. Trophies will be awarded in June to schools who take the top spot in the 2021-22 Learfield Directors Cup. The premier award recognizes one winning institution in all competitive divisions. Follow your favorite team's progress as seasonal standings are announced at L Directors Cup on Twitter and online at directorscup.org. The crowning achievement in college athletics.
Ready to get back in the game? Great news! The movement experts at Breakthrough Physical Therapy can help you find relief and results and keep you off the sidelines. With over 20 convenient locations across North and South Carolina, contact Breakthrough Physical Therapy today at www.breakthrough-pt.com to see a physical therapist. Breakthrough Physical Therapy, a proud partner of Carolina Athletics and trusted choice for keeping Tar Heel fans in the game.
Primetime in the ACC keeps on rolling here on a Wednesday night. Dave Nathan welcoming you back to business. And we've adjusted the format of the broadcast just a little bit to save some really good stuff. I'll let you decide if it's the best stuff for last, but it's Jim Szoke from Parts Unknown here on a Wednesday night. Jim, wherever you might be, hope you're doing well. And looking forward to talking some college basketball and a little pro football later on.
I feel like I'm being judged, like letting people decide if it's the best part of the show or not. I mean, I don't want people to feel obligated to say that it is. I mean, it doesn't have to be that way.
Well, this is the ultimate. Customer is always right. The audience never misses here on what they think is good or bad content.
Well, we love feedback here on the program, so certainly fax us your results from home as you get those.
It's interesting, Jim. You ask for feedback by fax instead of by social media. That's a savvy move.
Or even like stamped envelopes. Those are nice, I think, still to get something positive in the mail.
Everybody loves a little snail mail. Those personal notes are the first ones to get open at the mailbox instead of the bills in the junk mail.
Well, I know you get a lot of those stamped, self-addressed envelopes so that you can sign the photos, the 8x10s that you send out to the fans.
I wish I had my own Sharpie like some of the folks I'd run with. Unfortunately, I spend my time doing a lot of other things, like this show, each and every Wednesday night, prime time in the ACC. And, Jim, when we get to this spot on the calendar, it's just flipped. I'm reading March the 2nd here, 2022. We are less than a week away from the ACC tournament, and a few more days than that away from Selection Sunday. So we're coming down the home stretch here, and although the ACC, I think by all accounts, is down, it's kind of a shame. I'm watching the ACC tournament documentary in dribs and drabs wherever I can sneak in a look here or there, and it's been just so well done. You hearken back to, my experiences of going to this and watching this, the 80s and 90s and 2000s, and even before that in the 60s and 70s, a lot of people still remember. And I'm looking at the current state of college basketball right now, and especially in this league, it ain't nowhere near what we grew up with.
Aren't we always that way? Back in our day, we begin our sentences. But I remember, going to the ones in Charlotte, like when they added Florida State, that was a deal, went from 8 to 9.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Florida State obviously was a football move that it included with the basketball, and the ACC tournament gave it that odd number in the play-in game. So to me, that was kind of my wheelhouse of like fondest memories. I've been obviously in the last couple years. But as far as like being there in the 90s, thinking like the Grant Hill Blue Devil teams and just as Bobby Hurley teams, and just that was fun. That was classic. Christian Laettner and just the rivalries with North Carolina. I mean, it was just outstanding. Gary Williams coaching at Maryland when Maryland was in there. I will say this I would say out of all the intense coaches, I would tell people back in the day, if you have any opportunity at all to sit anywhere near the Maryland bench and watch Gary Williams coach basketball, it is the highest level of entertainment. You will not be displeased. He just begins with the opening tip, working the referees, veins popping out of his neck, red face, sweating through his entire suit, not just his shirt. I just think the intensity of ACC basketball tournament was like nothing I've ever seen. And Gary is probably that way every game. They playing top of the state, but I just feel like it's just like watching him and watching these coaches, and you think of the Mount Rushmore of coaches that have come through this league and remain in this league right now. It's just nothing like ACC basketball. And of course, being up in Brooklyn and moving it around and adding teams and making it regionals, not even a word, almost national as far as the length of the conference now. It will never have that kind of compact feel ever again. But it was something for those of us who went back in the day. So much fun to watch.
Well, you're right. And I strive not to be the get off my lawn, used to walk 2 miles to school in the snow, back and forth, uphill each way. I've always tried to avoid being that guy, and I really don't think it's taken a lot of effort. But, boy, Jim, the characters that this league had on the sidelines back in those days, the collective teams, the rivalries, the journeys from being a freshman to a senior, a lot of this stuff just doesn't exist anymore. And it's been a lot of fun to take a walk. I'll take the positive path here, Jim. It's been a lot of fun to walk back in time and relive some of these moments on these Monday nights when the show airs live. And then we're dropped back into reality here in the current state of college basketball in the ACC right here and right now. That being said, there are still some significant plot lines with just 1 day left in the regular season on Saturday, because you've got teams fighting to, I guess, get into Thursday, maybe get out of Wednesday, stay out of Tuesday with the format of the ACC tournament. Never mind all these teams on the bubble in the NCAA tournament. There's a lot of stuff at stake here with 1 day left in the regular season.
There is, and like North Carolina's clinched that top 4 spot in a double bye, so that's been taken care of. As we look at it, of course, the NCAA has, for a long time, reduced the impact of what the ACC tournament is. It's still huge. It's still important. But you're right. It's a down year. I think there's only going to be, at this moment, in my mind, 6 teams that can get in out of the ACC. Virginia Tech's got on this terrific run. They've won 9 of their last 10. They got 1 game left with Clemson, so they can win 10 of their last 11, get to 20 wins overall. And then it's Virginia, to me, the Cavaliers below Virginia Tech at that cut line. They've now lost 3 of their last 4. Buzzer beater, the Florida State hurt. They're at 17-12 overall. They got at Louisville coming up. So Virginia, if they can win the Louisville game, make a little bit of noise in the tournament, win, say, 2 or so, I think Virginia could give you a 7th team. But as far as just taking that topic of number of teams getting in, 6 for sure, 7 we'll see. It depends on how the Cavaliers finish out.
Something else that I was taking a look at the other day, we talk about teams going from worst to first. It's always a good story. I think back to the old 91 World Series, Jim, the Braves and the Twins duking it out, 2 terrible teams a year prior to that, trying to become world champions. And I look at Georgia Tech this year as a team that won the ACC tournament a year ago, down in the cellar right now. And it just tells me the wild swings that we can take here in college basketball, given how fluid all these personnel situations are.
And then in reverse, Wake Forest, right? 6-16 last year. Very similar to what Georgia Tech is experiencing. A shortened season, obviously, last year. And I looked up, because I couldn't remember, I looked up the ACC preseason poll for what it was worth. Wake Forest 13th out of the 15 teams in the preseason basketball poll. And here they sit at number 5. Like we said, have a chance to get to number 4. So I think, Wake Forest, we'll talk about Coach of the Year, Player of the Year topics coming up here. But the Demon Deacons, what they've done under Steve Forbes, has just been a magnificent turnaround.
Glad you brought that up, because these preseason polls and these preseason predictions, Jim, are the ultimate receipts of what folks just simply don't know at the time. And I don't think there's a better illustration of not knowing anything than predicting Wake Forest at the bottom of the pile this year and having the Demon Deacons as a quasi-contender for a good portion of the season. And so with that being said, Steve Forbes is clearly a candidate for Coach of the Year based on what the expectations were from people that didn't know. I want to ask you this here. Do you think expectations should factor into who's the Coach of the Year, or should reality factor in and what coaches actually have to deal with once the ball gets tipped off as a bigger gauge of who wins these postseason Coach of the Year honors?
No, you're right. I think the second part is the bigger gauge, but I do think you do have to have a little, what's it look like going in and who's over-exceeded expectations. I mean, I hate to say it. Duke was preseason number 1. They are number 1. And it's that time-old argument, well, why is Coach K not a lock to be the coach of the year? Well, they've got probably at least 4 guys who would be first-round picks in the NBA draft. So a lot is expected of them, and it's just a matter of just like putting that cruise control to some degree. That's being mild, is not accurate, but the expectation is that's not as difficult to do. The hay is in the barn with the recruiting part of it there, as long as you stay healthy. So I think expectations do have to factor in, like, who's the new story? Who's the overachiever that is a coach or a player of the year candidate in those cases? So I do think there needs to be times where you just say, look, the man deserves to be coach of the year. They won the conference. They win the regular season. They win the tournament. They should be penalized for doing a great job in recruiting and having great talent. But it's a little bit of a balancing act between the two. And what'll happen to Steve Forbes, let's say Steve happens to win it this year, then next year in the year's future, it'll be very difficult for him to win because he'll already have won and they'll want to give it to someone new. And second of all, he's now set the expectation bar way higher.
Yeah. To be picked first and to deal with those expectations and to still finish first, something that Duke hasn't done in about 12 years, it's no small feat. Sometimes dealing with expectations can be the hardest part of being a coach or being a player. So that merits some consideration. Clearly, and I don't want people to misunderstand me here, clearly Steve Forbes warrants some consideration. But, again, nobody knew that Jake LaRavia was going to be the player that he was, but he is the player that he is. So you have that for Wake Forest. And then I'll close with this here. Hubert Davis. Hubert Davis has lost 2 rotation players in midstream that could have really helped Carolina during the course of the season. And I don't know, and I don't want to put Carolina out on an island here because everybody deals with injuries and issues and players missing time for whatever reason. But you can't tell me there's a coach that's had his team succeed at a higher level in spite of all that than Hubert Davis this year, who's got his team at 14-5 and sitting right there for a chance to make a real run in this thing.
And the first season in replacing a legend in Roy Williams. They had to deal with players that left in the transfer portal, brought in a few players in the transfer portal, and blending all that together. That took a little bit of time. Basketball, as we all know, is such a chemistry sport. You see them now playing their best basketball here late in the season, as you said, now that they got the complement of the roster playing together. And you still feel like they haven't played their best basketball yet, so I think you're right. It'll be interesting to see how this Duke game looks on Saturday and how they play in the tournament, because I think they are really a team that's on the climb right now. And as you kind of look at, going into tournament time, that's what's important, not just look at the overall numbers, but, mentioned Virginia Tech, who's playing great basketball right now and winning close games and is figuring things out. I think Hubert Davis, as a coach, a head coach, and with that player complement he's got putting together, I think they're really finding their stride at the right time.
All right, we'll see how this Coach of the Year stuff shakes out. Jim, when we come back, I want to ask you about Player of the Year in the ACC, and we'll talk about the NFL Combine as well, as they said in the great movie Fletch. Smaller story, but I'm sure you've been following it. We'll discuss that. Also part of our stunning conclusion when we come back after this. I mean, we got to go back to the glory days of those great comedies of the 1980s if we're going to discuss, the 70s and 80s and 90s of ACC basketball, right? Let's run it back and relive all the glory days here tonight on Primetime in the ACC from Learfield.
There is a lot of misleading information about Medicaid eligibility. The Arledge Law Firm would like for you to know the truth. For instance, if you need a nursing home, Medicaid will take your home. That's not true. Another one is, if you transfer assets, you have to wait 60 months to qualify. Again, not true. And this big one, if you're already in a nursing home, it's too late to protect your assets. Not true, not true, not true. Call attorneys Gerald N. Willis, Kent Baldwin, or Martin Gerard at the Arledge Law Firm and get free consultation and learn the truth. It's more likely than you think that you may qualify for nursing home care and not lose everything you own. It's worth a call to Arledge Law Firm at 287-3338, located on East Court Street in Rutherfordton. Nobody gets a better deal than the customers at Sisk Family Ford. They have a proven record of the best deals. Sisk Family Ford, Rutherford County's only locally owned new car dealer, has recently been recognized as the #1 Ford dealer in customer satisfaction in the Southeast. That speaks well of their commitment to serve their customers well. Look for all the new design 2021 F-150 at Rutherford County's only locally owned new car dealership. That's Sisk Family Ford, Oak Street, Forest City.
This is Dwayne Hunt with Insurance Service Associates, wanting to let you know that we have moved. Our new office is located at 245 East Main Street in Forest City. Come see us for auto, home, or your commercial insurance needs. Also come see me, Dwayne Hunt, for your Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage, or prescription drug plans. See us at Insurance Service Associates, now located at 245 East Main Street in Forest City, or call 828-245-5301.
WCAB, WCAB, WCAB.
UNC Tar Heels basketball is on Valley Sports South, your home for ACC hoops.
Score the basket.
Be sure to catch some of the biggest ACC matchups of the season live as the Tar Heels clash with the best of the best in the ACC and across the country. From Tobacco Road and beyond, UNC hoops action on Valley Sports is nothing but net.
On target.
Watch or stream live on Valley Sports South and the Valley Sports app, your home for ACC basketball.
We've reached the point of our broadcast that we affably refer to as our stunning conclusion here tonight on Primetime in the ACC. Dave Nathan, Jim Zoki, taking you home or wherever you might be going. As we wrap things up, Jim, we talked about Coach of the Year candidates, and I think we all agree between Mike Krzyzewski, Hubert Davis, and Steve Forbes, there's probably not a wrong answer. Everybody's got their reason to be Coach of the Year. Unfortunately, it just comes down to one or the other or another. Player of the Year, though, I'm looking at two guys in Alondas Williams and Armando Bacot as my two favorites, and I want to know from your side of things if there's somebody else that you think gets into this horse race.
I think, you could still make the case of Paolo Banchero being he'll get votes. His thing is, I mentioned in the last segment, he's got three other teammates projected as first-round draft picks in the NBA draft, with A.J. Griffin, Wendell Moore, and Mark Williams. So his stats aren't going to be the same because he's on a team where he's got so much around him. But still, even with that, he's averaging almost 17 points per game, 8 rebounds per game. So I think Paolo Banchero, best player on best team argument, you can make a case that he'll be in the running, I think, as far as that goes. I agree with your first two, by the way, but to throw one more in there, I think Banchero's got to be mentioned too.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the old Heisman voting days where if you've got a whole bunch of guys in the same region that are going to take each other's votes, well, that allows somebody else from some other place to maybe jump up and win the award. I don't disagree with you. Paolo Banchero, having seen him in person, the physical composition that this guy has as a freshman is, I don't know if it's unlike anything I've ever seen before, but I haven't seen a lot of it, how he's physically constructed and what he's able to do. I don't think there's much doubt that he has some tools that other folks just don't have. But I'm also looking at this from what do players mean to their team, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to find two guys that mean more to their team than Bacot at Carolina and Alontis Williams at Wake. You take Bacot off of Carolina, it's a totally different story. Same thing with Williams at Wake Forest. Duke, I still think, would be pretty daggum good, even without Banchero.
Agreed, which is why I think the ordering you had was correct in adding Banchero as a third is how I would place him. So the question to me becomes, is it Bacot or is it Williams? And you look at what Bacot has done, and he's been, you talk about steady, all the time performer, 23 double-doubles, tied for the most in program history, leads the ACC in rebounding at 12.3 points per game, and is a top 10 scorer in the league, averaging about 16 points per game. But then my pick is going to be Williams. And the reason for that is he's leading the league in scoring at over 19 points per game. He was up near 20 for a while, 19.4. And he's leading the league in assists at over 5 per game. Nobody has done that double-double of leading the league in those two categories since 1972. And with the season Wake Forest is having, and then I factor in, I know it's the player of the year, I factor in that he transferred from Oklahoma. He never averaged more than 6.5 points per game at Oklahoma. His game has stepped up. So I know it's not most improved player, but I can't help but overlook the fact that he's come in and added to his game under Steve Forbes, the way that he has, and what he's meant to Wake Forest and their ascension from the record we talked about last year being 6-16 to being at least a top 5 team in the ACC, if not top 4. So to me, I like to spread it around a little bit. A lot of Carolina, a lot of Duke in the history. Wake Forest is having some exceptional things happen this year. My vote would be for Williams.
Yeah, you know me, Jim. I'm a big history buff. I love the historical significance of what Williams is doing at Wake Forest and with what Bacot is doing at Carolina. It feels like after every game Carolina plays, something is said about, well, nobody's done what Bacot did tonight since Billy Cunningham back in the 60s or Bob McAdoo in the 70s. The number of double-doubles he's had this year. He had a game where he had 20 points and 15 rebounds and 5 blocks. It's never been done in the history of Carolina basketball before this year. So much like the discussion with Coach of the Year, you've got two pretty good competing arguments, and I think a really tough choice to be made here between those two. The other one, and we'll ring this back around to some Wake Forest history, Bacot's averaging more rebounds than anybody in ACC play since Tim Duncan back in 1997. I mean, we're dealing with some of the best that have ever done it here and talking about two current players in Alontis Williams and Armando Bacot.
In what we began this two-part segment as saying, a down year in the ACC, right? So this is what a down year in the ACC looks like, and that's just 3 of the top players this year. But, I would have actually, again, no argument. I could argue Bacot as easily as I could argue for Williams. I could be the prosecutor or the defender. But I got to pick I'm going to pick Williams, but I would have absolutely no issue if Bacot actually ends up in actually winning the award.
That's right. And here on Primetime in the ACC, we don't call them arguments. This is a jovial show. They're friendly conversations or discussions. That's what we do here on a Wednesday night.
Hot takes.
Yeah. All right, Jim, give us your hot take here on the NFL Combine, the itinerary. I'm guessing you've got your little printed out pamphlet about what everybody's doing and where everybody's going to run their 40s and do their shuttle runs and their vertical leaps.
Yeah, I won't bore you too much. They do it basically by position. They come in staggered days. So, Monday was tight end, quarterback, first one's in. Offensive line and then running back. Day 3, defensive line, linebacker, and then the 4th day, defensive back, place kickers. And they'll go through again, all the interviews they do with the teams. They'll do media interviews, medical exams. There's an NFLPA meeting. They do all the measurements where you get into the intricacies of Kenny Pickett's hand size, which is so vitally important, bench press, 40 speeds, all that on-field workout stuff that they do, which is fun. And, of course, NFL Network has, years ago made it into a TV show. But I had a little bit of trivia for you, and some may remember this. The fastest 40-yard time in the history of the NFL Combine. This happened not that long ago, Dave. It was 5 years ago. Do you know who's got the all-time fastest 40 speed at the NFL Combine?
Goodness, I was going to go with, who was it, Chris Johnson out of East Carolina, but that
was the record that was broken, so you're a very good guess.
It was
Chris
much
Johnson
more than 5 years ago.
But he was 2008, of course, ECU. He ran a 4.24. This guy ran a 4.22. And when I say it, you'll remember it from 5 years ago, a wide receiver.
5 years ago, wide receiver. Ooh, boy. Jim, I'm struggling. I'm thinking somebody from Alabama here, but I'm probably off on that. Who is it?
It's going to be John Ross. You probably remember now I say it, from Washington, ran a 4.22, ended up with the Bengals, and I think he's bounced around a little bit. But John Ross, slightly faster than that Chris Johnson one, which was way back in 2008. The fastest of the ACC players of all time actually was 2010 out of Clemson, and that was Jacoby Ford, who ran a 4.28. So that's for the primetime in the ACC audience. That's your fastest 40 speed there. So I think, that's always a story. We've had guys like DK Metcalf, just with his size, running 40 he had, and just the workout freak that he became in terms of the combine. There's some people that kind of stand out as storylines. You and I have talked before. We think the football aspect is the biggest part of that. But for what this week is anyway, sometimes you get some unusual 40 speeds or amazing bench presses or leaping abilities. So it's always, fun to add into the conversation, at least anyway, of the whole evaluation of these players.
Yeah, what was John Ross's statistical line in the Super Bowl this year for the Bengals?
Nobody remembers that.
Well, he'll always have his 40 time in the combine, and you said it. At some point, you got to flip on the game film and see if these guys can actually play. The combine.
Jamar Chase came in big for the Bengals.
Yeah. Hey, does Rich Eisen still run the combine? 40-yard dash.
I believe that's still a yearly thing. I think it's a charity thing. So yeah, he does the 40 speed and the full coat, tie, and loafers kind of thing.
Yeah, I will probably skip most of the combine because I've got baseball and basketball responsibilities out the wazoo right now. But I will make it my job to find Rich Eisen running the 40. And the best thing the NFL Network does, this is great television, is they'll superimpose somebody else who's really fast over the top of Rich Eisen, right. And you can see the difference between those guys. And sometimes I'll give Rich Eisen a 20-yard head start, and somebody else starts at the original line and just whizzes right past him. That is must-see TV.
It is. And if Rich is anything like the rest of us at a certain age, I'm sure he's only getting slower, not faster at this point.
All right, Jim, at this point, we're running out of real estate here on the radio. But, again, appreciate the time. We started off talking about the glory days of the ACC and came right around to the here and the now not being so bad after all. So big night of basketball to be concluded later on tonight. Final day of the regular season on Saturday. The ACC tournament begins on Tuesday and will continue into Saturday with Selection Sunday coming up on the 13th. And I also think we've got daylight savings time coming up on the 13th as well. So, Jim, in a couple of weeks when we do this show, you might possibly be roasting marshmallows with the sun shining out by the lake.
Man, that's a lot of information, a lot to take in. I can't wait till next Wednesday.
Listen, like we say at the beginning of each broadcast, this is 3 hours worth of sports information, conversation, and maybe a little bit of entertainment, all crammed into a 60-minute window. And I feel like this week we've made good on that promise.
As ADD as I am, that's perfect. I love the condensed format that we have.
All right, ADD. Far from Anthony Davis, but he's Jim Szoke here on Primetime in the ACC. Partner, always appreciate the time. Thanks for the info, and we'll talk to you in 6 days and 23 hours.
It's on my calendar.
All right, the great Jim Szoke wrapping things up here on a Wednesday night. Dave Nathan signing off and saying so long and farewell. It's been Primetime in the ACC.
This has been Primetime in the ACC. Brought to you by Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. With zero sugar, and now even more delicious, is the new Coca-Cola Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? Find out for yourself. And by Wells Fargo, official retail bank sponsor of Carolina Athletics. The proceeding has been a Learfield presentation of the Tar Heel Sports Network.
Mr. Rogers said, "Look for the helpers."